been in the wellness field for 45 years and was in private practice for 40 years. I've studied a lot of nutrition and many modalities, but my main modality was I studied with an Israeli physicist, Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais, and studied with his senior teachers. And so I'm very grateful that I've gotten to help and support people with their wellness and their movement and freedom and my own. If I didn't do this work, we do a lot of work on ourselves in this method more than any other method, and I would be in a wheelchair if I didn't do it. So, and I'll tell you why. So everybody has a big story, and I hope that mine is helpful to people. And I should say everybody has different sizes of stories, I guess. But life is not easy sometimes. And then we have this wonderful capacity for healing. And the patches are, well, I'm starting to call them the patch to enlightenment, because they're actually bringing light into our body and in a way that none of us ever could have imagined. And many people have a hard time imagining. But when I was 12 years old, I had a 2-story fall. My father saved my life from a fire. It was very cold. It was 23 degrees below zero in the Midwest. And so there was actually extra electricity being used and a fire in the fireplace at night, which was unusual. So one parent thought it was the fire, and the other one, even at the end of their lives, the other one thought it was the electricity that started the fire. But 6 people were out, and I and my youngest brother were still in, and my father had to literally throw me out the window. And I landed on cement, and then he had to dive out head first. So my knee started swelling after that. I got shingles and other rashes, smoke inhalation, pneumonia, and that was just like the beginning, I think, really, of my healing journey. And then when I was 19, I was beaten in the head very badly. So that was a second head injury. And about 5 years later, I kind of walked into a metal and glass door. It kind of bounced back into the corner of my head. So it's kind of this history of head injuries. And in my early 30s, I had a misdiagnosed ectopic pregnancy. So by the time they did surgery, they had to replace 5 pints of blood. And I didn't even know for years. I was so affected in my head, but I had something called anoxia, where I just lost a lot of oxygen to the brain. And then a bad car accident in 95 when I was 41, and a gash, and again, some disruption connecting the two sides of the brain. And then in May 2017, I was parked, and I was hit at an angle by a big heavy car, and I because I was turned, it bruised my brainstem, and I couldn't walk for I walked, but I had difficulty walking for a few years and a lot of vertigo, and I couldn't read at all for 2 years after that accident. So and then it turned into a lung injury, and then I got COVID, and 8 weeks into COVID, I was getting weaker. And this was May of 2020. I got a call from Santa Fe, from Juliana Coles, about the stem cell patches. And the first one I put on helped my body feel like it was clearing, like my whole, like this clarity was just descending down my body, and my brain felt better. So that was 3 years after the brain stem injury, and 8 weeks of COVID brain. And like David Schmidt said just the other day, he said the brain can shrink with the coronavirus, and it feels weird. The COVID brain is it's not brain fog. It's way beyond that. So right away I felt that. And then in the next few hours, the weakness that was just continuing to worsen over 8 weeks, that was lifting so much. And the fatigue, that I called a good friend of mine who'd offered to drive me to Iowa to see my mother, because she had just been 4 weeks into COVID for me. She was diagnosed that she was going to be dying in 2 to 6 weeks. But I was too weak to go half an hour away, let alone 1,000 miles. And so my friend and I were on the road within 6 days driving to Iowa, and I was able to drive half of each day. I wasn't perfect, but I was able to go, which was an enormous blessing.
Victoria, that was after you started the patches, right? So all this, before, you never even thought you could make that drive. And then you, if I recall correctly, you were only on the patches not too long, and you could make this drive.
Yeah, I was on the patches for hours. I felt so much better in like 5 hours that I called my friend. And then each day I was getting better, but it was really a push, because I was weak, and but I got there. And then I had a weird leg injury with COVID, the third week, which they say they were at that time, they were saying was the worst if you had it that long. I had like an earthquake in my right knee, which I broken the tibial plateau, and I'd had two surgeries previously on that knee. But it was like rumbling, making noise, and like it felt like it was blowing up. So that knee has been swollen for almost 2 years now, and painful. The whole lower leg. Some people, one therapist said the bones were torqued. One therapist said the bones were bent. So it's been really challenging. But the bones are moving like all the time, and way too much, way too much. So that is getting better. That is getting better. But the main things I think with the improvement of the X39 is I can think better. And I'm just noticing recently I can see better. I can see small print without my glasses, and I can see further also without my glasses. And I'm able to walk more and walk further, walk faster and longer. And I'm just stronger overall. I'm 67 years old. I forgot to say that. So I'm 67, and I have a wood burning stove here in Western Massachusetts. So I'm hauling wood and moving wood a lot. And it's just been really easy this winter. It's been really easy. I haven't had any arm pain, any shoulder pain, any back pain. And typically too, I have several bloody noses a month in the winters, and I've had 2 bloody noses in the last 2 winters. Like, that's all. And I don't know what that's about, but it's really nice to not have to deal with them. And sleeping is way, way better. I had insomnia for decades, and and then, as most women say, with menopause and perimenopause, menopause, actually with childbirth, sleeping or after with children, sleeping gets harder, and then all these other hormonal changes. So I'm definitely sleeping better than I have slept in like 30 years. So
now earlier you're talking about vertigo, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are like, oh my gosh, because a lot of people unfortunately feel vertigo. Now, how's that improved for you?
That also improves steadily, and it had improved before I used the patches, but it still was bothersome and pretty regularly. So it's hardly noticeable now. Yeah, and I think the X49 definitely improved my heart further. The X39 helped my heart a lot and my brain, and the X49 helped my heart and my brain a lot more. Right. More. And I think also I have a lot more strength and stamina with the X49.
And that's the X39 and X49 together, correct?
Together, right. I would not, yeah, always together. And I also teach movements for bone density. And I studied it again with one of the Feldenkrais elder teachers from Israel, who was teaching into her 90s, by the way. And she taught these brilliant movements for bone density, which I teach on Zoom. And when the X49 is helping us build muscle mass, when we have more muscle mass, that like tugs at the bone, that puts some pressure on the bone, and that helps to create. I mean, David is also saying that studies are showing that X49 is actually increasing bone density, right? And then having more muscle mass is increasing bone density, and that having more muscle mass is actually burning fat. And I am burning fat. I don't have as much to grab on my back. I'm very happy about that. So I feel like I feel like it's really burning fat in a fantastic way. And I just like knowing that it's protecting from the 5G and EMFs too, of course.
You still had some pain that was going on in the sacroiliac region. How's that going now?
Did I not say that? My sacroiliac area and sacrum is much stronger. I would say stronger than it's been in 51 years.
Victoria, yeah. For those on the call who don't know what that area is, can you explain that a little bit?
So that's some people call it. That's a really good question, Laura, because people actually call it the low back. Sometimes people call it their hips. But it's the area. Our pelvis is the largest bone in the body. Like if you put your hand on your waist and press down, that's the top of the pelvis, and then the sacrum is the size of a hand, right in the middle of the pelvis, and the pelvis then goes around from the sacrum. But there's a joint between the pelvis and the sacrum on both sides of the sacrum that mine has been too mobile, and I have an asymmetry there. I have a fusion where the fifth lumbar vertebrae is actually fused to the sacrum, which creates mischief and instability. But I'm getting much more and more stable all the time with the patches. And I mean, because I've done lots of things, obviously, over my life. I've lost my ability to walk many, many times, and I was losing it again when I was 23 in college. I'd crawl up the stairs and I'd get into bed and study, and then I'd crawl to the bathroom and crawl back to bed. And that's when someone introduced me to the Feldenkrais method. So again, I've been blessed with things coming to me at the right time, and the patches came at the right time. And yeah, I don't know what I can't imagine ever not using them, because we always want to activate our stem cells, right? The more stem cells we have, like the New England Journal of Medicine said that our health is directly correlated to the number of stem cells in our body.
How long from the time that you started the patches to now have you been on them?
Oh, I did not say that. So
Okay.
this May 18th, it will be 2 years. So
Okay.
almost 2 years. You know, sometimes people stop the patches because they're not all better, or they haven't seen enough results. And please continue them, because our bodies need a lot of support. There's so many, we're getting, we have injuries, we have, we don't even know what happened when we were born. Something funny might have happened. One midwife said every baby's born with kinks, so, but, and it's just the environment. We need a lot of support, and we need to do many different things to keep on getting healthier. And the patches are one of the most important things that we can do, and keep on with them. Yeah.
Is there any pain in your body?
I'm still having some in my lower leg. Actually, this morning, it's something kind of kicked up, or last night. But that's from that COVID injury. And I was supposed to have a session this week, and I got snowed out of it. So a little bit, and there's a little bit of neuropathy, I think. I didn't say that. I had really intense neuropathy this summer for the first time. And I think it's from COVID partly, and from, I needed to eat differently because of a dental situation, and so wasn't eating enough protein. And that neuropathy is completely gone, but maybe just a little bit left here. No, I wouldn't say completely. I was writing down that it's 90% gone.
Last time we had you did have a little bit residual pain in your low back, and you said that now that is gone though, correct?
Yes. And my lower leg hasn't hurt for weeks now. And so, and it had hurt constantly for about, I don't know, like 14 months, like day and night. It had hurt a lot. So it's much, much better, much better.